chicken parmigiana served with potato chips baked in the oven. What I need you to do is have a copy of the recipe and a pen or pencil to tick off the ingredients and the method and to make any changes that I suggest along the way. Let's get started with the ingredients. First of all, there is a lot to collect and set up, so you need to divide up the ingredients with your partner today. First, you need to collect 1 chicken breast. This is the first time that we have worked with chicken, so this is a really important message. Chicken is potentially hazardous in that it can make you sick because uncooked chicken breast is a high risk of passing on salmonella, which is a form of food poisoning. So what you need to do is make sure that anything that touches the raw chicken, including the board, a knife, any other utensils or your hands, as soon as it has finished coming into contact with the chicken, that you go and wash it, if it's your hands, in the hand washing basin with hot soapy water and then drying thoroughly, or if it's an item of equipment, it gets washed in hot soapy water in your sink with dish detergent, plug in, and again warm water to kill off any of those germs. For that reason as well, when you collect your chicken, I want you to use the red board and nothing else is going to get prepared on this board. You'll have a separate board to prepare the rest of your ingredients. We want to use red or brown boards today. Those are the ones that we generally use for raw or uncooked meat. Next ingredient, 1/4 cup of plain flour. Now this is an unusual thing, but I want you to tip it onto a plate. We're going to use it for crumbing. 1/2 cup of breadcrumbs. Again, you're going to put your breadcrumbs onto a plate. Then we have 1 egg, and I've cracked it into a medium bowl. I'm going to give it a quick whisk around just so it's ready to use straight away. My next ingredient is 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. Now we need to use a jug so that we're not carrying back a full cup to your bench. 1/4 cup of oil. Then we have free-range ham slice. Now rather than the 50 grams, can you please change it to 2 slices? This is all we need for our parmies today. It's just to add a little something. It's not a key component of the dish. We then need 1/2 cup of passata or tomato puree. Again, using another jug. Doesn't matter if it's a small or large jug, but measuring 1/2 cup. 8 basil leaves. Can you change that to 4 basil leaves, please? They're quite large, so you just need 4 today. 100 grams of fresh mozzarella. I've left mine in the freezer, I've just realized, so I'm going to grab it out. We're going to use 100 grams of the pre-chopped up mozzarella, so just normal cheese. So if you can just cross out the fresh, and it will be the normal cheese that we use. 1 large potato sliced into wedges, that's going to be my next step, and a teaspoon of dried rosemary for flavour for our potato chips today. Step number 1, preheat oven to 180 degrees and line 2 baking trays with baking paper. You need 2 because one is going to have our potato chips and the other one is going to be for when we put our chicken parmies in the oven. Prepare the potato, place on a tray and drizzle with oil and sprinkle with rosemary. To prepare it, I have given it a wash over the skin, but we want to leave the skin on for nutrients. I'm now going to cut it into about 1 to 2 centimetre strips so it looks like chunky chips. Claw grip, first I'm going to cut off one edge, then I can flip it over and it's not wobbling around, it's nice and secure. I can now cut it into strips, and as that last bit starts to get a bit wiggly, I can flip it over and continue to cut it into my large kind of strips. I think I could cut these even a little bit more, just so they all look about this size. So I'm going to continue to cut my potato, keeping in mind you want to have them a similar size so that they are all cooked evenly, and we're doing them about 1 centimetre to 2 centimetres so that they cook in the half an hour time frame. Adding them to my tray and spreading them out. This is just a small amount of potato because it's just a side. You're going to have lots to eat. Drizzling with not all the oil, just some of it. We need the rest for our schnitzel. So a jug is really handy for this because I can just drizzle a little bit on top of my chips and then season again with sprinkling the rosemary. When they come out the oven, you might like to have a taste and then add a little salt. That's fine, but for now, let's just see how they go. The rosemary might add enough flavour. Okay, oh, in the oven. Step number 2, cut off the fat of the chicken and slice into 1 centimetre thick pieces. So you should end up with about 4 small schnitzels per chicken breast. So I'm now going to move to my separate board and prepare the chicken. Keeping in mind once I touch it, I need to wash my hands. So to prepare the chicken breast, I like to flip it over and flatten it out to start with. I can see that there's a separate sort of section over here, so I'm going to cut that off first and use that as my first piece. I can also then cut off this little red and white bit at the top and put that into my scrap bowl. Not too keen to eat that one. So I've now got one piece I'm going to set aside. What you will notice is that it's a bit thinner at the bottom and thicker at the top. So I'm now going to cut halfway down and just use this bottom tail piece as a second schnitzel. So I've now got 2 pieces that are about 1 centimetre thick. And this one here, see that's a bit thicker. So I'm going to very carefully cut it in half long ways so that now I have 2 pieces that are a bit thinner. I'll hold up that board so you can see I've got 4 small schnitzels ready for the next step. Before I continue, I need to go and wash my hands with hot soapy water and put my knife in the sink. My hands are clean and now I'm not going to touch the chicken again, so I'm using tongs and a fork. We're going to crumb and there's 3 steps to that. First, picking up your chicken breast and dipping it into the flour. This is going to take any extra moisture and give it a nice coating. I'm then going to dip it into the egg wash. So I'll drop it in there and use the fork just to swizzle it around to get a thin coating of the egg mixture. And then it's going to go straight over into the breadcrumbs and I will dip it either side into the crumbs. From there, I've got another plate to put my finished coated chicken on. If you need extra plates today, you might need to go to the serving equipment. I'm going to do the same for all 3 and then turn my stove on and add in the oil, ready to cook, and I'll show you once they're in the pan. So I finished coating all of my chicken and I added it to a hot pan with the rest of the oil. Mine have been in there for about 4 minutes and you can see that they are starting to cook. Now what we're really looking for is to see the change in colour around the edge, and if I carefully lift up, I can see underneath it is starting to go golden and crispy and the edges of my chicken are going white. The top through the crumbs I'll still be able to see is a little bit translucent and squishy looking. That's okay, we're about to flip it now. Carefully away from yourself with each piece. Away, 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 and continuing to cook for another 4 minutes. Now we don't need our chicken to be completely cooked, but mostly cooked because it is going to go in the oven right for another 10 minutes. So I'm going to place this back on the heat for another 4 minutes, setting my timer. Important note, now that my chicken is cooked on the outside and most of the way through, I don't want to be touching the outside with the tongs that touch the raw chicken. So I've washed these with hot soapy water. We're now up to step number 7, which tells us to place the cooked chicken onto a lined baking tray. And then we're going to be topping it with the Parmigiana style topping. So right now we've just got a plain chicken schnitzel. We're now going to add, first of all, the slice of ham. Now we've got 2 slices and I've got 4 bits. So I'm just going to tear it in half and that's plenty to lay on top of the 4 small schnitzels that I have. We then add some passata. And because this might drizzle off a bit, I'm going to put my 4 bits close together to reduce the amount that goes over the edges. Can all sort of run into one another. Now I found I didn't actually need all of my passata. If you want yours really tomatoey, you might like to add a bit more. I think that's enough for me. Then a basil leaf, just 1, 2 each. It's going to give it a nice kind of Italian style freshness. Then we've got the cheese that goes on top last. Okay, sprinkling it over. Because we've got baking paper on our tray, it's okay if some of the cheese falls off, and it's going to melt all over the top of our parmies, giving it a nice cheesy flavour. And that's plenty of cheese. You definitely don't need more than 100 grams. We could probably do it a bit less. This goes into the oven for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to serve them with our chips. 10 minutes has passed. My chips are now ready. They're golden on the outside, and if I give them a little squish with a spatula, they're soft in the middle. Beautiful. So I'm going to serve up half of those onto one plate and half for my partner. I've now got my chicken parmies. They look delicious. The cheese is melted, and I can see that the sauce has warmed and started to soak through into the crumbs. I'm going to scoop 2 of them onto this plate, using a spatula rather than my tongs to try and allow all the topping to stay on top, and scooping up some of that gooey cheese that has melted down the sides as well. Smells delicious. Now we need to double check that our chicken is completely cooked all the way through. All we need to do for that is choose the thickest part of one of the pieces of chicken and to give a little cut through. So I'm using a fork to hold it, a knife just to cut into the edge, and then I can have a little peek inside without ruining the look of the overall parmy. And I'm just double checking that it looks white all the way through. If it looks gooey and see-through, it's not done. It needs to go back in the oven. But this looks done. If you've cooked it in the oven for 10 minutes and on your stovetop for 4 minutes either side, so 8 minutes all up, it should be cooked through. My reminders for today: treat the raw chicken with care. Anything that touches it, treat the chicken like it's got poison, so you don't want to spread it around. You need to wash your hands or wash the board or the knife, etc., with hot soapy water. Double check it's cooked at the end and be organized. This is one of the trickiest preps we've done. Good luck, enjoy.